everyone, welcome back to the Celestial Resistance and Daring Do. In today's episode, well, it's time to finish off this civil war, hopefully. It's a 1v1 now. Old enemies. Most of the ponies that Daring Do had come into conflict with in the southeast were enemies due to circumstance or choice. Those who fought for the Nightmare were against Harmony, and those from Baltimore sought the downfall of the princesses. It was their beliefs which had run contrary to her own, and thus they were enemies on the battlefield. In this case, however, the taste was very much personal. Did things not go as planned, Caballeron? Daring asked with no small amount of satisfaction as she watched her old rival's bitterness deepen. He and his most loyal mercenaries and natives had fled following the fall of his self-proclaimed free state, seeking refuge in Stablestide. That was why he was now here, pleading his case to his former arch-nemesis. Caballeron ground his teeth, trying to maintain his usual confident demeanor. We are here because we understand that you are the best option for us now. Thus, my forces and I have decided to ask you for help. What was that, Caballeron? Couldn't hear you there. We need your help, Daring Do. The adventurer finally exploded. We need your help, Daring Do, revealing his two disgrace. And now will you help us or not? Daring Do made a big deal of thinking it over for a minute before putting her hoof down, just to make the moment last. Well, lucky for you, helping other ponies out is what heroes do, even if they have dubious past histories. Caballeron wisely chose to keep his mouth shut for once. Instead, he just nodded and turned to leave. Caballeron, Daring called after him, I don't want to hear any trouble from you either. No funny business, or else I'll rescind those pardons. He gave another curt nod before walking out the door. I don't know if this is a good idea. He's kind of evil-ish. Well, you know, everyone can change the My Little Pony way, yada yada. I get it. Friendship is magic, yada yada, you know. So you gotta forgive people who are willing to try, yada yada yada. But this doesn't seem like a good idea. Also, Equestria is dying. The Lunar Empire definitely looks to be winning. Push forward, please, actually. Do that, yeah. Whoop. That's 2009. I thought that was... I got my time mixed up. Don't do that yet, then. Instead, come over here and do this. Slowly pushing in different areas. Okay, no, don't care about that moment. No, I don't want to do this region-wide thing. Oh yeah, I did boost. Well, this is where I built the infrastructure. Like, I just built infrastructure there on the preamble to the Civil War. I thought that would be a nice neutral way of doing it, where I knew it would help me eventually, but the place it literally helps is an enemy of me to start, so it seems like a good even ground where it's like, yeah, it's a little biased towards me, but it's also literally helping my enemies, not me, so it's, you know... But eventually it'll be good for me to have that ready to be used by me, so, you know. Okay, there we go. You just take out those troops, and then we can all get to the main front after. Yes, let's acquire more weapons. Ooh, nice. We actually have enough weapons to build troops now. Nice, that works for now. Okay. This episode is not going to be the most interesting, I guarantee it, because we've got no lore to read, and honestly, I feel like the lore reading is the main, like, interest of my channel. If you're here for my gameplay, I don't know, man. I'm not the best at gameplay in this, so... Yeah. I actually don't want you guys coming over there because they're gonna deal with that. Okay. Oh, that's what I meant. Yep. What's going on? Okay. You've gone to war with the Changeling lands in protection of your Deer's Republic ally. Interesting. Interesting choice you've made there, but alright. connect that up, because why not? Okay, and now we're gonna get the friendly preacher for now, just so I can get my stability up. Hey, he's got a description. See, good thing you stayed here to watch. I did find a description to read. Goodword. Ever since he was young, Goodword had a penchant for talking to others. Whether it was a friendly conversation or a strife-filled argument, his uncanny ability to get through to even the most disturbing ponies was an unnerving as his ever-pleasant personality. However, for most of his life, his outward happiness was merely a mask that hid his crippling anxiety. Furthermore, he had become somewhat distant from his father, due to the elder stallion's preference for doing charity work rather than spending time with his sons. Goodword's life began to change in 1002, after an attempt to rekindle the relationship with his father took a turn for the worse. During a relief mission alongside a small Ponitarian group known as the Friendship Lodge, a damaged support beam caused the roof above Goodword's father to collapse, burying him underneath a heap of metal. The young stallion saw the speed and zeal of the Friendship Lodge first hoof as they rescued his father, even going so far as to rush him to the hospital when they saw he was hurt. Unfortunately, the injuries Goodword's father received were terminal. As the elder stallion was dying, he apologized to his son for not being there for him, and said that the reason why he worked so hard to aid others was that there are so many ponies who need help, and Celestia knows they need it more than we do. She would help too, but even she can't be everywhere at once. This was a spark that altered the young stallion forever. He became filled with the same spirit of charity that his father held, and he sought to work alongside the Friendship Lodge in order to work up past his own anxiety while spreading kindness and the teaching of Celestia to all. In the years that followed, he rapidly rose through the lodge's ranks, and it was only a few months after he became head lodger that Equestria descended into civil war. Now he stands ready to do what he believes Celestia would do, but some wonder if he desires to emulate the princess's actions borders on obsession or even worship. Well, glad to have him helping, so whatever. If you worship people, I don't care. Okay. Okay. Keep going. We'll recruit more tribals. Oh wow, we've got a huge the end of the Equestrian Civil War. Jeez, that did well. My Civil War ended too. Guys, I don't think I think we better prepare for potential. Potential that this could be bad. We were kind of hoping to be able to help them, but we were a little late. Guys, get to the border. Oh, wow, they did not last long. All throughout the Equestrian Southeast, ponies are laying down their weapons. What was once daring do in the Kitchen Sink Rebellion has triumphed over the forces of disharmony. While some resistant cells remain in scattered pockets, almost every pony has accepted that life will probably return to the way things were under Celestia, or that nothing bad has happened to her or Equestria. I mean, yeah, reconstruction of vital infrastructure has begun in key areas. It is only a matter of time before we can attempt to re-establish contact with Equestria. Until then, the commander must address the increasing noticeable lack of actual governing body in the southeast. I mean, about that, I don't think we're going to be able to get contacts up with Celestia. They literally collapsed like like moments before we succeed, like days before we succeeded, and we're like, hey, we've won. So they fell. Like, what timing? Well, here we are. Prepare for the worst. We have lunar remnants. We have defeated them, the Nightmare Moon supporters. Yet even in defeat, they lurk about the dark, unwilling to accept defeat. We'll need to take steps to reconcile ourselves with the Bat Ponies and oppress those who won't give up violence. Also, tribal warbands demobilize. Yeah, within the tribal warbands have been fighting first, decided to return their homes. Yeah, fair enough, but we might need your help again in the future. I guess I'll set a war goal for now, but set some potential push points just to have things preparing. But Native resistance. Victory in the Civil War did not result in every issue magically disappearing. The native tribes continue to resist our rule, refusing to trust us and our modern ways. Much work remains to be done in order to pacify the region. Descent of the cities. The Civil War may have ended, but the animosity between common ponies has not waned in the slightest. Addressing this issue should be one of our first concerns, lest we suffer a second revolt. And we have economic devastation. The Equestrian Southeast was already amongst the least developed regions in Equestria, but the Civil War has ruined what little industry that already existed. The ruling government must enact quick measures to restore civilization and modernity. Yep, we're going to stabilize stable side. We may have won the Civil War, but now we're faced with the challenge of actually governing the South side, or Southeast. To that end, Daring Do has begun creating the framework for a real government, one that can handle all the boring politics ahead. One mayor simply can't run everything by herself. I mean, they can, but I mean, Celestia did. Well, at first. Anyway, I mean, people have ruled alone. It's just, that's not our plan. The first step, of course, was to choose a city as the capital of our fledgling nation. Stableside seemed like the obvious candidate, as it suffered the least damage from the war. The second step was to select a building capable of housing and government. Unfortunately, Stableside Hall was not nearly big enough for the task at hand, so blueprints for an expansion were drawn up and construction began in earnest. Next was the issue of how the nation should run. Despite the objectionable beliefs of the ponies in Baltimore, they seem to have nailed the idea of governing quite well. So Daring Do had proclaimed that that a republic would be established, complete with a parliament and elections for a president once the new Capitol building was finished. The unique role of the commander would still retain full control of the military, but only Daring would ever hold that title. What Daring neglected to mention, however, was that she planned to step down once everything was set up, so she could go back to adventuring and writing books. She hoped that everything would work out, as she was putting a lot of faith in the ponies of the Southeast to do the right thing. For now, though, they had to hurry up and finish the building the capital. A nation without a government is no nation at all. We don't have the actual infrastructure to actually have our troops on the border right now, which is bad because they could attack at any point. Like, that's really bad. Political perplexion. Politicians, like nearly every pony, require a workplace to do their job. We should expand Stableside City Hall however we can to make room for a real government. Yay. Racist barn, 1, 2, 3, 4. Raise this barn. Totally not racist barn, like that weird, I don't know. I love how weird, like, that meme was. That meme song. I mean, it honestly sounds pretty close to it in the actual show, which is where the meme comes from, but yeah. From one disciple to another. In the wake of Daring Do's victory in unifying the Equestrian Southeast, the ponies helping her suddenly had a lot of additional responsibilities thrust upon them, namely expanding Sableside City Hall into a building capable of governing the entire region. It was here that the two commanders' advisors found themselves sitting at desk and furniture when one of them broke the silence. Why do some other Thrustrels call you a Celestian? The question, though innocent in nature, seemed to pierce the humble earth pony. Goodward's ever-cheerful demeanor seemed to falter momentarily. I believe it is a derogatory term, used for ponies who are as enthusiastic about Celestia as myself. You grew up in Ayakati, didn't you? I figured you would know. Crescent Glow nodded, turning to help her companion move a table. Well, I was kind of sheltered growing up. I was never allowed to leave the caves as a filly, she chuckled nervously. The first time I met ponies from other tribes was when my parents let me go to Canterlot University. I've always wanted to see Canterlot, Goodward sighed, as they hefted the table to the other side of the room. As for Ayakti, just last year I foolishly tried to preach the lessons of Celestia and her faithful students to the Moonspeaker conclave. They seemed to humor me, but I quickly found myself removed from the city before I could explore further. I'm curious, though. Is it true that there's a giant statue of Princess Luna in the central region of the cavern? Yeah, I actually got to see her back when I graduated. I'll never forget it, and Crescent stopped. Her breathing became shaky. Goodward noticed the Thrustrel's crumbling expression and trotted over to her. You miss her, don't you? Crescent nodded, trying to hide her sniffing. Goodward offered her a comforting hoof. Hey, don't cry. Maybe there's a way we can bring her back. The elements of harmony did it before. Crescent gently brushed aside his hoof. I also got to see Celestia, too. I'm not sure how, but I could tell that she had suffered while Luna was gone. I then realized that the sun and the moon must live together in harmony. One is it more important than the other? The Earth Pony raised an eyebrow. I know that my preference for Celestia is obvious, but I don't discount Luna as also important. A member of the Friendship Lodge, not a fanatic cultist, not like the Cheer Terrans. Crescent chuckled. You know, you're alright for a Celestian. Goodward and Crescent Glow are eligible candidates for the upcoming election. Alright. Puzzling parties. Though most paperwork and legislation will be done after the government has been set up, some of it needs our immediate attention. In fact, some may be an underestimate. Interesting. The National Front of Patriotic Salvation. Oh, that's Kyria having a civil war. Understood. Of natives and outsiders. With the victory of harmony in the southeast came the necessities of governments, and unfortunately for many now involved in the trappings of governments, that included paperwork. Lots and lots of paperwork. Chief Malta watched as Dr. Caliberon sorted through the next stack of papers sitting on the desk, relaxing from a comfortable chair nearby. You could help me go through all this, you know, the adventurer said with a hint of annoyance. Many hooves might make work light. The chief laughed. But you seem to be enjoying yourself, he responded, amused. I take it this is not the work you did in Commander Daring's stories. As much as she paints me as the villain, her books are at least more exciting to read than this. The native pony finally got out of his chair and walked over to one of his stacks of paper Cabaleron had made. So tell me, Mr. Cabaleron, why is it that you volunteered for setting up an independent parliament free from executive control? First, it's Dr. Cabaleron. Second, because the Southeast must be free from the whims of Daring Do or whoever takes her place. It must be able to stand by itself, free from outsiders. Chief Malta raised an eyebrow. Even you? Cabaleron looked at him, and the native laughed again. I've spoken with the tribes you worked with during the war. They told me of your leadership, your desire to see them free. There's more to you than you know, Doctor. Perhaps you're the one ponies want. He shrugged. Or perhaps I'm simply seeing things. You're the doctor, after all. Malta turned to leave, a stunned Cabaleron behind him. Wait, the other finally responded, causing the chief to pause. What about you? Are you one to lead as well? Malta thought for a moment before answering. My people wish me to try, so I shall. But as long as the peace is kept and I am able to rest, it makes no difference to me. What about you? Perhaps we have more in common than we know. Well, we have some more eligible candidates for the election. Look upon Equestria. Now that we have organized our fledgling government, the time has come to finish re-establishing contact with the rest of the continent. The only question is, what has happened to Equestria while we were busy restoring harmony to the southeast? So we don't have, in a shocking turn of events, Daring Do's recently established government has chosen to recognize Daybreaker as Celestia. They are even making preparation to formally join forces with the Empress's son. What will the commander do now that our own ponies are about to abandon harmony? Equestria still lives. Ponies all throughout to the southeast are celebrating in the streets of the news. We mustn't waste any time. Send a telegram to Clestial immediately. But what is actually happening here? What the future has in stone. The first session of Parliament had begun without a hitch as several major policies were codified. Surprisingly, despite the diverse makeup of ponies representing Parliament, there were scarcely any disagreements between them. Threshers from Ashiti and the Nuka tribals of Tenochtitlan, members of Friendship Lodge here in Stableside, and all other sorts were present, and conversing in relative peace. Even some political figures from Baltimore held seats, though they seldom voted in favor of any motions. Daring Do sat near the back of the room, and she watched the meeting unfold. Elections for a president were set to begin in a few weeks, and so she had decided to wait until then to make the announcement of her resignation. She allowed herself a smile as she saw Goodword and Crescent Glow chatting together in the corner of the room. They both seemed to enjoy the other's company despite their differences. Her smile morphed into a frown as she spotted Dr. Tabaleron speaking with a few members of Parliament. What was he up to? As she was considering going over to investigate, she heard a bellow of laughter behind her. Chief Malta had garnered a decent crowd to listen to a no-doubt humorous tale, much to the annoyance of the ponies nearby, who were trying to pay attention to what the speaker on stage was saying. In time, the session began to wind down, as all of the most important issues were addressed. Just as the closing remarks were given, a disheveled stallion rushed on stage. He was holding a small device that hadn't graced Stableside since the Civil War began, the ham radio. He exclaimed that he had traveled a long way to attain it. He returned home as fast as he could once he confirmed that it could pick up a translation from Canterlot. This caused quite a stir within the room, as no pony really knew what was truly going on in the rest of the continent. Sure, there were always travelers and passing vessels with occasional rumor. It was hard to get concrete information from the conflicting reports given by said travelers. Several ponies murmured as the stallion fiddled with the radio, just what had happened to Equestria while they were busy unifying the South. Every pony listened closely as the radio static began to clear. Different focuses will become available depending upon what has happened to Equestria. Well, Daring Do and the last bastion. We will never surrender to tyrants who spit in the face of harmony. The spirit of Equestria shall live on through us. Harmony must be fought for. I was interested what would end up happening, because I didn't set anyone to win or have, like, Daybreaker set to spawn or anything like that. I kind of just I didn't set any things in the settings that you can do for what your game will be like. So I was interested in what I'd end up getting. But the worst has come to pass. Celestia, no. Equestria is gone. We can't give up hope now. The commander has reassured us that she will continue to fight for harmony as long as we are willing to. But what can ordinary ponies do against what we're up against? Finish the fight. That's what. I am not good enough at Hoi 4 for this, but I'll give it a shot. There's a chance that this series ends in just me losing, because I'm not good at Hoi 4. Okay, let's do artillery and support and trucks. Because I plan on having those as well. So yeah, let's move down on some of these. Yeah, let's do that for now. Okay. Okay, we've all unified now, so that means I'm actually gonna then just let that go next, because that's at 100. But I think we will see what we decide to do about what we're learning about the outside world. Well, we'll decide on that in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And as always, peace.